In this video, I'm going to be discussing the Mercury Retrograde in Virgo that is going to be occurring this year. But it's going to be actually the Mercury Retrograde season that I'm going to talk about in detail in this video. So this is sort of on the side of my weekly horoscopes, the videos that I do every single week where I go through the astrology of the week. But I wanted to do a special, more in-depth video for this transit because it is a really, really important one. So I just want to go through some technical details before getting into the meaning of what I want to talk about here. So, Mercury is going to enter, it entered Virgo, the planet Mercury entered Virgo on July 28th, and it's going to stay there until October 4th. So, what happens is that Mercury enters shadow on August 3rd. Now, the shadow phase of the Mercury retrograde season, there's three parts of it. There is the pre-shadow, the retrograde, and post-shadow. So the pre-shadow is when Mercury enters the degree that is going to station direct at when it stops going retrograde. So it enters a degree, and then this planet moves forward on a particular path, and then stops, stands still, where its energy is really heightened and magnified, and we can really utilize it, where the energy of Mercury is really prominent in the sky. So that planet stations retrograde. Mercury goes back over the same territory of degrees that it covered when it did the pre-shadow, and then it stations direct, and then it walks down that same path again. It covers those same degrees again. So Mercury is going to enter shadow, and certain lessons and themes that deal with Mercury, and especially the sign that it's in the house placement that it falls in your natal chart, are really going to come up. And there's certain information, communications, discussions, messages, all these kind of things that you may see in a different light when Mercury actually stations direct after going retrograde. So that's really important to note. So it enters shadow today on August 3rd, the day that I'm filming this video, at 8 degrees of Virgo. So find out where 8 degrees of Virgo in the mutable signs. The mutable signs include, first of all, Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So find out where those signs are in your natal birth chart, where they are located in your natal chart. These could be planets. These could be points, angles, your ascendant or midheaven, or your lunar nodes. Find out where 8 degrees, or I want to say 6 to 10 degrees of the mutable signs are in your natal chart, because that's going to be an important area that's going to be really activated and heightened, and you're going to be experiencing more of a significant effect, that the lessons and themes are going to be more powerful for you. And so you want to pay attention to where that 8 degrees of Virgo is in your chart, or around that degree, and what house or what life area, because the houses in astrology deal with the life areas. The areas of your life, houses 1 through 12, correspond to all 12 signs of the zodiac. So you want to find out what life area is going to be affected by this Mercury retrograde in Virgo. It may be in your 5th house of creativity, children, creative expression and romance, or your sixth house of your work, your co-workers, your habits, your daily routines. The sixth house is, you're chopping wood, carry water, you're doing the do things, you're taking care of the details of your life. So whatever house that it occurs for you, that's going to be very important. So then, Mercury enters shadow on August 3rd, 8 degrees of Virgo. Then Mercury is going to station to go retrograde on August 23rd, the same day that the Sun actually enters Virgo. Now, what's really interesting is that at the very beginning of Leo season, when the Sun entered Leo on July 22nd, Venus actually went retrograde in Leo. It's stationed retrograde in Leo the same day that the Sun entered Leo, which is really, really fascinating. And when the Sun enters Virgo on August 23rd, then Mercury is going to station retrograde on that same day, and it's going to do it at 21 degrees of Virgo. And then it goes direct on September 15th at 8 degrees of Virgo. And then it leaves shadow, actually. So it leaves the retrograde season behind. It leaves behind 21 degrees of Virgo on September 29th, the same day as a very dynamic and culminating full moon in Aries. And that's not an eclipse, by the way. So it leaves shadow on September 29th at 21 degrees Virgo, and officially leaves the sign of Virgo again on October 4th. So those are some technical details that I wanted to get out of the way. So now we're going to be sort of putting puzzle pieces together here. So Mercury is all about communication. It is how you communicate, how you voice your ideals, your ideas, your opinions, your emotions, your beliefs, how you express yourself, how you share information, how you sort of message other people in a conversation. It deals with your thinking style and how you process information. So thought processing, how you learn, how you take in information. So Mercury in astrology is the messenger, which is taking in all of these messages. It's Hermes in Greek mythology, and there's a whole myth to that. So Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. It corresponds to the 6th and 12th houses in astrology. It really deals with the details of how a situation is approached. So it deals with the small nitty-gritty things of, I must be technical and logical and rational and approach these tasks in this way. A plus B must equal C in order to get to this destination. You can see why, if you know astrology, then you can see how that relates to Virgo. Mercury rules Virgo. So it deals with, the details, the little things of, how are you going to get to a certain destination. Mercury is it's a very versatile energy. So it can put itself in any situation and think itself out of any situation. It also rules how you persuade other people, how you convince other people for them to be on your side. So it's very technical, again, dealing with the details. And it's analytical in terms of your thought and your speech, how you plan things out, how you strategize, how you map out a situation. With thinking and communication. So it deals with mental energy, and rather, energetic mental energy. So that is what Mercury is about. And then Virgo deals with details. It deals with the little things, the little details that make up who you are, that define who you are. It deals with so many of the themes that I'm going to be discussing. So there is a lot of backlash and a lot of negativity thrown at the Mercury retrograde. And I am not one to join that whole bandwagon of people, of the mainstream media, which can be one-sided and irresponsible. And I think that any astrologer who brings up the sort of stereotypical narrative of Mercury retrograde, of being very dictatorial and disempowering, don't do this, don't do that, and being very sort of binary in that this is what you should and shouldn't do. I find that it's wrong, it's not responsible, it's not very uplifting, it's not very spiritual. And I think that is just wrong. And I do not want to participate with that story of it. Because yes, there's a lot of negative traits with Mercury retrograde, but also many opportunities, many benefits, many wonderful things, and opportunities for growth and learning that can come from Mercury retrograde. So it's imperative that we do not neglect the positives and the potentials that come from this particular transit, in this particular astrological activity in the sky and phenomenon. So, it gets a bad rap because it's, just out of, communication mishaps, delays. Things could go haywire. You might not have backed up your files. A flight might get canceled or a meeting might get rescheduled. All these kinds of things like that. And it's very important because Mercury rules information. What information are you going to engage in? Are you going to allow yourself to get consumed by the fear-based narrative of Mercury retrograde and crawl up in a ball and dig your head in the sand and live in fear and not choose to live your life and get out into the world and do what you need and want to do? And the ideas and goals that you want to pursue, you're not doing those things because, Mercury is retrograde. And I don't really think that should be an excuse for any one to not do anything. And I really don't think that people should put their lives on hold just because Mercury is retrograde. And so, it's not about allowing the astrologers to tell you, oh, you shouldn't do this, and not doing what you want to do for 3 weeks at a time. Not allowing what astrologers say out there on the internet get the better of you. So, so I'm just going to go through it. I'm not going to go through and hash out the negatives because I'm sure that if you're very familiar, you know all those negatives. But the positives that can come out of Mercury retrograde, first of all, when Mercury goes retrograde, it stands still in the sky and appears to go backward. It's an optical illusion. Now, there is astronomy to this, and I'm not going to get into that astronomy. But from our perspective here on Earth, Mercury appears to go backward. So, this is an opportunity for all of us in one way or another, in one area of life or another, to go into the underworld or our unconscious minds. So, we're sort of moving throughout our day, we're meeting these new people, we're experiencing these situations, these relationships, we're, having our goals, having our work, all of that, living our lives, taking in new information. And then Mercury decides, oh, well, I'm tired and I'm going to take a break and I'm going to rest. And that's the Mercury retrograde, when Mercury sort of takes a vacation and goes to sleep during, 3 weeks out of the year. And when Mercury backtracks, we can see things much more clearly and in a different light. We can take in new information that maybe we didn't understand or see or realize when Mercury was going direct. We can find realizations and insight and incredible wisdom from the Mercury retrograde. We can really go into our unconscious, and it can really be a great time of self-discovery and spiritual reflection, and going into our inner world and meditating on certain matters of communication, of the mind, of certain conversations, of certain, maybe it could be ideas that we have, or beliefs that we have, or mindsets that we have, or approaches that we have for how we, really go about our life. So, we can review things in the mental and intellectual realm when Mercury goes retrograde. So it's sort of like dreaming or sleeping in a way. And I highly recommend listening to a video. Call it Baron Reed, who is a spiritual teacher, oracle card expert and creator, book author, founder of Oracle School. She has a conversation with astrologer Michael Lennox, who talks about what really actually is Mercury retrograde, where they debunk and myth bust all the myths that have been placed upon it, where he really goes into depth of what it actually is, maybe reveals it and explains it in a different light, and maybe in a way that you never thought that it would be. So really getting deep and, profound with his explanation of Mercury retrograde. So there's a lot of information in that video that I highly recommend that you go see. With Mercury retrograde in the sign of Virgo, this is a time for, first of all, logical thinking, very, very clear thinking. We can see, yes, no, black, white. This is the right logical decision, and this is not. Discernment comes as a real strength with this, where we can see, what should we do? What shouldn't we do? What's the right choice? What isn't the right choice? What are the steps that we have to sort of map out and plan and sort of cross off our bucket list as we are moving from point A to point B and getting what we want done, and, checking things off our to-do list. So we can discern and have a healthy sense of, I don't want to say discrimination, but skepticism of who is the right person to hire for this position. What is the right job that I should engage in? What is the right relationship? What isn't working in this relationship? How am I approaching this relationship? Or what is a healthy dynamic? What is a healthier dynamic in this relationship that I could consider? That I'm sort of speaking now, if this Mercury retrograde falls in your 7th house of relationship, especially marriage, but this could be any relationship. It also includes business and family relationships. It's all 7th house matters. So we can discern what foods are healthy and not healthy for us, what path to go down, which sheets are going to be more comfortable or less comfortable for us, what pens are going to work better. All these little things. I'm sort of tantalizing your mind and opening it up. So discernment, clear discernment, really drawing healthy boundaries. It's going to be very critical to draw the line in the sand of where you may get taken advantage of, if you get taken advantage of, or if you're someone who feels like you get taken advantage of easily. This can be a wonderful time to draw boundaries. No, I'm going to engage this much of my energy, this much of my time into this person. I'm not going to give over all of my emotional, mental resources in the land, lay, whatever I need to give, so that I'm drained and I'm depleted and I am out of energy and out of, heart and soul to give and to serve this particular person, because Virgo deals with I am being of service. I want to improve your life by not fixing you, which is the low road of Virgo, but it can be making someone's life better, giving tips and advice for what they could do differently, because you generally want to see them improve and grow, and you care for them and you want the best for them. So that's sort of pointing to a higher road of Virgo. But clear boundaries is going to be huge. With, I'm drawing my boundaries. I'm drawing a line to just what doesn't work in my life, but I'm going to choose to take care of my own physical body and my own mental, emotional health, and prioritize myself. All those kind of things. So there's many ways that could show up. So this is a time for being more detail oriented and organized, paying attention to the details, the little details of things, especially involving, accounting, math, but whatever you need to take care of, the bills getting paid, the steps on the recipe that you need to prepare, all those kinds of things. Doing something in a very logical and detail-oriented fashion with this transit. And also, it's a wonderful time to get organized. If there's any socks in your drawer that you haven't worn since last year, it's a great time to get rid of those things. Clean out your closet, clean out your desk or your space or your files or your bookshelf. Maybe there are some books that you haven't read that you feel like you want to get rid of and, give to Goodwill or something like that. So, donating to charity is, great at this particular time. So, organize, cleaning out your room, your space, all those kind of things. Really making a system that is structured, efficient, and useful for you, with paying attention to the details of your life. Like, is this space going to help me work more efficiently and more usefully? Is this going to do me good? Am I going to be more focused, more, more efficient, more on task, or am I going to be scattered all over the place, unfocused, overwhelmed, and I need to readjust and clean something out? So, reevaluating how, you're managing your life, how you're spending your time is also huge. Are you spending it doing things that are efficient and wise and making the most productive use of your time, or could you do more things that are more productive and practical? Maybe not watching as many videos or playing as many video games, but reading more. Maybe it could be, exercising more, eating healthier, eating better, all these kind of things. So, yeah. So, precision in speech and thought, really thinking about how you're communicating, how you're speaking, and am I expressing myself clearly? Am I speaking clearly? Am my words coming out in a clear, concise, understandable way where people can really catch on and get what I am saying, what I'm trying to communicate? Because there could be, again, with Mercury retrograde, there is that possibility of miscommunication. So they say, astrologers say, to double check things, to make sure that this person understood the message that you were communicating to them, so that it's clear. so that it's not, jumbled and lost in the excesses of their mind, and that it's something, so that you don't communicate something and then something happens where it's unexpected and it's not what you communicated and wanted out of this person. You know, let's say you order which is a perfectly, realistic life example that happened to me during Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, which happened in January of 2023 this year. I wanted a vanilla custard, but instead, I got a chocolate custard. So I really don't want any frustrations and miscommunications to occur during Mercury retrograde. So being very, very clear about what it is that you want and need, and asserting yourself, and speaking up, self-advocating, being very clear in your speech is going to be important. And so one of the other downsides is judging people, because Virgo at the low road can get itself into some judgmental tendencies, where you're judging and seeing the flaws of people. Maybe people are not meeting up to your expectations. They're not doing what you wanted them to do, what they should be doing. They're not being on task. They're not getting their work done. All those kind of things, or they're not enough for you. But maybe when we judge others, we really are internally actually judging ourselves and projecting that judgment onto others. So, they say respecting yourself is first and foremost. And so when you can have compassion and love and self-acceptance for yourself, when you can turn in on yourself and speak positively and being very loving and patient and understanding towards yourself. Say to yourself, well, I'm doing fine with this, I'm doing good with this, I am enough, I am, this is where I'm at right now, and, all those kind of things, having a more positive sense of self-talk in terms of a negative sense that can be really, really huge. But then not getting caught in the shadow side of Virgo, which is judging yourself. So if you find yourself judging other people, and maybe it can be things that they cannot change, then, catch yourself and, know that, you're doing it again, and refrain from the judgmental tendencies. So it may be the case where you may see the flaws of somebody, and then you feel the need to judge them for those flaws, or what you perceive or view as flaws. So those kind of tendencies could come up. So, communicating with kindness and grace and patience and loving care is all very important. So this is a good, transit to look at sort of the systems and structures and things in your life, details of your life that, what's useful for you and what doesn't work, and what things do you have to shift around, So, yeah. So, efficiency is important. Um, and maybe looking at, because Mercury, you're reviewing things. Maybe this could be going over past plans, past, goals, and past systems and structures, and, approaches to getting stuff done, and, whatever that may be for you that actually worked in the past, and maybe revamping or revising or bringing those things back into your life. This can be a wonderful time for reevaluating sort of structures, and maybe a schedule that you want to set in place, where you're managing your time better and you're on top of things. So So communications and dealing with details might actually be more difficult during this time. Communications might slow down. There could be more difficulty, but it's not necessarily what is going on externally, because planets don't do things externally. People do things, but the planets, just when Mercury goes retrograde in this case, were more attuned to the frustrations of delayed communication that could, come up to when, things have slowed down and, don't get the email to you as fast, or, things, there's a delay, or, anything like that. So you're more attuned and hyper aware of those frustrations and communications. That Mercury is putting a spotlight onto those things, and really having you become more aware of these particular things. So, and being very productive during this time, doing something productive with your time is important. Now, some of the other downsides is that we may become too sort of factual, lost in the little details of things, caught up in the flaws of things, the nitty gritty, where we're not stepping back and seeing the bigger picture and the larger vision, where we're not getting, perspective over the things that we are doing, and losing sight of the end goal, the destination, into getting too caught up in the bogged down in the details of, how we're getting there. Too caught into the negatives of things, that we may also lose our optimism and vision for the future and the goal that we want to achieve, also, and where we want to go. So, those kind of things, are very mindful to keep in mind. Being too caught in the details, maybe we lose our intuition, or are losing touch with our emotions or our gut instinct, or what we need to do to care and nurture ourselves on an inner level. Maybe, we're working too hard and we're overdoing it. We're, doing too much that, we can't handle it. We're overextending our energy, maybe biting off more than we can chew, overdoing it, and all those kind of things like that, where we forget, self-care, taking a break from our activities, spending time with the people in our world, leisure, relaxing, doing things like, meditating, journaling, all those kind of, spiritual practices. So bringing those things back is, it's positive during this time. So it's a great time for, again, tackling the to-dos on our to-do list. So other downsides is maybe this could be where we could find ourselves being more high-strung, with a perfectionist need for things to be absolutely right, for the details to be absolutely on point. And, because it's Mercury that we're talking about. So there could be some high-strung energy with, your nervous system being on very high alert. You're very attuned to when the slightest thing goes wrong, and the need for things to be proper and right in the plan, to go as planned, and everyone to do what they need to do, and things being in a certain order, and everything like that. So, anxiety. And at the low level, OCD, or obsessive compulsive tendencies, maybe could come up and show themselves up. Maybe for those who are dealing with obsessive compulsive habits. So that is something to keep in mind. So And so, Mercury retrograde always offers us an opportunity to rethink, revise, revisit. In this case, it is your health, your physical health. Again, exercising, eating right. You know, your diet. Are you prioritizing things that you need to do for your mental health, such as meditating? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough time, outside? All these kinds of details are wonderful to consider during the Mercury retrograde and Virgo season in general. Your habit patterns, the habit patterns, and maybe getting rid of the habit patterns that do not serve you and putting in place some new, healthier habit patterns. Um, yeah. And so looking at your daily routines and maybe establishing a daily routine that is consistent and orderly and um, works for you. Um, and so, yeah. So, um, so all these things that I just mentioned, we're going to be doing some reflection on them when Mercury goes retrograde. Now, there are a couple aspects that I do want to point out during this time. And the first of which is that we have Mercury in a trine with Jupiter. So Mercury is going to trine Jupiter 3 times, the first of which is going to be during the pre-shadow, when Mercury is covering the territory that is going to go back over when Mercury goes retrograde. This is going to be on August 9th, 2023. The next time that Mercury is going to trine Jupiter that you want to mark down on your calendars is going to be on September 4th. And then the final time is going to be on September 5th, a couple days away from when it leaves the post shadow. So, Jupiter, we've already talked about Mercury, but Jupiter is about abundance. It is expansion. It always wants to put a positive spin on everything. Always seeing the glass, the glass half full. Where, what is the positive thing out of all this? It's like there's there's an optimism where, oh, let's, do this. Let's have this kind of, idea because you're feeling and, like you're ready to use energy, you're ready to do something. It can really put a lot of faith and confidence in your back pocket with Jupiter energy. And Jupiter also looks at your outlook, how you view your life, your philosophy over your life, and the actions and the beliefs and the things that you think about, and your values based on that philosophy. So, with any trine, it brings a lot of gifts and beautiful blessings and beautiful harmonious things our way. But the trine offers us an opportunity that we really need to take action on and take advantage of. Because the trines are really easy energy. We really need to make the most out of it, take advantage of it. So, any Mercury Jupiter trine during these particular dates and around these particular times, you can find a greater sense of optimism, that can come about, for hope for the future. Maybe you were so stuck in the gloom and doom of things not going in your way, or a relationship at rock bottom, or at a sort of low point or rough patch, or a sort of direction or a goal that you want to achieve, and certain things not happening quick enough, or you're not sort of finding the tools for what you want to create, and the pieces are coming together as easily. So, whatever this may be, a greater sense of optimism can come where, you have hope, where yes, I can make something happen. I can implement something that I want to, and actually, I can move forward. There is hope. And actually, I have a brand new idea that I have and I want to implement and that I want to act upon, and something new that I want to do, and maybe a new place that I want to go, or something new that I want to achieve, whatever it may be. So there's also a greater expanded sense of joy. You're feeling more joyful. With the optimism comes joy. So this is a great trying to have fun and do any activity that brings joy to you. This could be, interacting with somebody who uplifts you and brings you joy. This could be doing anything fun that brings you joy. This is also great for learning new things with this particular energy. Great for learning any new thing that you don't know much about. Reading books about this particular topic, really digging deep into something, especially if it is philosophical, religious, historical. For instance, I'm currently reading a book on the lunar nodes in astrology by Dan Spiller. It's called The Astrology for the Soul. So, really digging deep into information, learning new things, acquiring new knowledge, wonderful things to do around this particular time. And the Mercury-Jupiter trine sort of offers a doorway and a gateway of opportunity to learn new things. And so I may very well spend around these trines reading some of the books in my shelf, or reading that book by Jan Spiller and learning new things, where there's a lot of fun and joy and goodness that can come from learning new things, where it feels fun and exciting and rewarding and worthwhile to learn new things. So, you can also, because Jupiter also rules philosophy, you can also discover some new wisdom and insight during this time from the things that you're learning, from the people that you're engaging with, and sort of put that into your, mind of knowledge. So, really seeing the wisdom and the higher meaning in the information that you're reading about is, or that you're hearing or that you're learning. That's huge. Um, so, so wonderful for gaining wisdom and all those kind of things like that. So it's also great to reevaluate, especially as we're talking about the Mercury retrograde, your outlook on life, your philosophy of life, whatever it may be for you. This is also a great time to future pace, plan for the future, where there's this optimistic energy, where you can map out what you're going to be doing for the future, of a project that you want to get done, or a task that you want to do, even the smallest thing. Where, again, it comes back to that optimism. So what do you want to do for today in the present moment? How do you want to take the most advantage of now and then tomorrow? And this particular aspect can bring, this wonderful time to become more open-minded and curious. So the other aspect that I just want to touch on is it occurs on September 6th, and it is a conjunction of the Sun and Mercury. So this particular conjunction is, it is known as, I'm going to use a word, I'm going to throw in a really fancy word here. Astrologers sometimes refer to a Sun-Mercury conjunction as a Sun-Mercury Kazemi. Kazime, a Kazemi. That's sort of another word for it, but I really think it is imperative for astrologers to explain what the heck that a Kazemi is, because there's going to be many, many people who are not going to know what that word means, and you would better explain, oh, a cazimi is when the sun actually conjuncts or meets up with Mercury at the same degree and sign that it's in. That's what a cazimi is. That's what a Sun-Mercury cazimi is. A cazimi is when you have any planet that comes to conjunct the sun. That's what that is. And I just wanted to throw that in there for, a new astrological tidbit, or, for your food for thought here. So this is great for expressing yourself, speaking what it is that you want to communicate in a really confident manner, putting yourself out there, communicating what you want to, and engaging your mind, stimulating your mind, doing things to stimulate your mind. Around this time, you may find yourself busier, more mentally alert, thinking more, wanting to communicate, share more, um, be more social with other people. It's great for networking, pitching your ideas, persuading your ideas, convincing people of what you want, really using your gift of the gap. Great for debating, great for making, giving a presentation or a speech. Or for anyone who presents on TED Talk, it's great energy for that, where you can really convince a crowd during a Sun Mercury conjunction to be on your side and to support you. And then during the Mercury retrograde, it may bring about more clarity and information on the lessons and themes that are, you're sort of marinating and reflecting on during the Mercury retrograde, where things can become much more clear and visible to you. And you can, move forward with that Sun-Mercury conjunction when it occurs in whatever life area that the Mercury retrograde falls for you in your natal chart. So I hope that this was helpful and interesting, and I hope that you share this with someone interested in astrology and in this particular topic. I hope that this video finds you well at whatever time you end up watching it. I hope that you have a wonderful, really productive, very smooth sailing and meaningful Mercury retrograde. Bye for now, everyone.